Okay, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
And welcome to our Wednesday morning class. Yes, and I want to welcome you that are here in person and also to you that are with us online this morning. We want to welcome you to the class today. We have a wonderful, talented writer here in our midst, and I'm really blessed by a new book that she's writing. It's called, Blogs That Clarify Spirituality. And sometimes we need clarification. At so much information coming at us, and I know I tend to be very wordy because I have so much in my head, but the wonderful talent that Jackie has, this is Jackie McNeil Watts, who's a member here with us at HeartLight, and her wonderful ability as a teacher for many years to put together some of the subjects that we teach here in such a way that I think people who are ready can receive it. So I want to start out today with what she says about fifth dimension. And these are all from blogs that she has done and put together into this book. In several blogs, I have stated that the next step in the evolution of consciousness for Earth human beings is to ascend to the fifth dimension and become spiritual beings. Planet Earth must also make this shift from the darkness of the third dimension into the spiritual light of the fifth dimension. In fact, in recent years, our planet made this shift, and in order for Earth human beings to continue to inhabit the planet Earth, we must also make the spiritual shift and ascend to the fifth dimension. This is our goal and our most urgent task. How do we make this shift and ascend to the fifth dimension? We do so by raising our energy frequency. We enter the fifth dimension when our energy vibration is high enough to match the vibration of fifth dimension. That's excellent, by the way. Vibrational match. Okay? And that's why we do all the work with vibration, sound, tuning forks, bowls, whatever tool that you use, even the human voice, and most of all with intention. So I think that's a very important. To raise our energy vibration, we must free ourselves from all the mental and emotional baggage that we have amassed during many lifetimes. So true. In the Bible, it's called judgment begins at the house of God. I know that sounds very religious sounding, but judgment there means that we become our own observer of the choices that we have made, of things that are out of alignment with our spiritual soul purpose, and therefore we have created a karmic debt. And that's what karma is. Karma are things that are not in line with divine spiritual purpose that we have somehow pushed into the unconscious emotional body that ends up as illness, sickness, and diseases in our physical body. Yes, I am convinced that if we could clear all the karmic of all past lives and present life, that we would be free from illness, sickness, and maybe death. Let's put it all out there. The Bible is clear that the last enemy that shall be put underfoot is death. So we all think we have an appointment with death. I hear that all the time. There's one thing we can all agree, we're all going to die. Well, maybe not. You know. Anyway, I could get on that for see how I am. We have allowed this baggage that we have amassed during many lifetimes. We have allowed this heavy baggage to weigh us down and lessen our perspective of reality. When we release the baggage, our level of awareness becomes greater. The third dimension lower attributes are released, and man operates from the heart. Heart is the portal to fifth dimension. Man, I could just take each sentence here and talk about them. They're wonderful. When we are awakened to positive traits such as unconditional love, intuition, a mindset of abundance, and other spiritual gifts, when we reach the fifth dimension, we have a consciousness of love, peace, compassion, At this higher level of consciousness, there is no heavy negative baggage. Anger, separation, pain, sickness, and death, lack, fear, violence, and guilt, etc., do not exist in the fifth dimension. Life is totally blissful. Spiritual wisdom prevails. Isn't that great? And said in just a couple of paragraphs or so. All that. That covered a lot in that area. All right. We've been talking in the class about how we navigate our journey from 3D to 5D. That's the question. You can't talk 3D, 5D until you have the way you navigate through 4D. Okay? Now, I have to mention, using the thing that I know the most, and that is Bible stories. And there's no way that the children of Israel, after 320 some years of slavery, could have just moved into their destiny, into the land of milk and honey, into the promised land. What was lying between where they left and where they were going was the wilderness state. Now, wilderness is an important part because it's process between 2 points. And it was in that place that a lot of work was done that took 40 years that would have taken 40 days. Egypt and where Israel is today is not that far away. Look on a map. They're really close. So what in the world were they doing for 40 years, even symbolically? Now, 40 is the number of testing. Jesus was in the wilderness 40 days and 40 nights, and fasted 40 days and 40 nights. And 40 shows up a lot, and it's always the time of growth and testing that is taking place. So the main thing about the children of Israel in that story is they were not allowed to take all their baggage that they had made in 320 years of slavery in Egypt and take it over and try to work it out in the land of promise. To enter into the land of promise, they had to get rid of the baggage. Are you understanding me? Because when they came out, they were angry. They were angry at Moses. They were mad. They were lost. They had all this kind of stuff that people would have who had been in slavery for all these years and dealing with it. They were ready for war. They were people of war. So they had to stay in the wilderness until all that war was out of them, all that anger was out of them, all of the anxiety, the grief, and all the things that they had built up for over 300 years and brought out with them. You know, there's a saying that you can come out of Egypt, but it's Egypt coming out of you. I say the same thing about people in religion. Sometimes you think you've done it because you come out of a religion, but is the religion come out of you? So the fourth dimension is going to be symbolized by the wilderness idea of where we do the work. That's where we do the work. So what is third dimension? It's simply what you're living most of your day and life. From the time you wake up and get your first cup of coffee, that's a third dimensional thing. It's caffeine. Some people just can't make it without their coffee first thing in the morning. Don't even talk to them until they've had that cup of coffee. And it's that point that you've started your third dimension experience. Brushing your teeth, taking a shower, all of the things that are the mundane actions and reactions is how we survive in 3D. Taking care of our bodies, what it takes to move around in 3D. You need a car. In 5D, you'll need a Merkaba. The Merkaba, the light body. These are things I've taught on. Excuse me. The Merkaba is your light body. It is going to be your light vehicle that you'll be able to move beyond time and space. You'll be able to be wherever you choose to be by a very thought. That's going to be the fifth dimensional human. shelter, finances, food. And remember, we, human beings, are the keepers of 3D. And we've talked about all the dimensions that we kind of know of, all have keepers. So human beings was given the dominion over the earth. They were given the power to multiply. They were given the power to name animals and plants. They were given the power to seed the food, in which it says, by the way, that fruit was the meat. By the way. Yes. And this is before, I think, 3D humans had skin. I don't think we started out in these skin suits that we have now. I think that is a part of what we call the fall in vibration and frequency, that we took on what we call skin. Now that's different than flesh, but that's a different thing completely. Now, let's talk about the curve to higher dimensions. And we have a graphic to show you in that, which he isn't here to do. Okay? So there are 6 ancient tones that creates a sacred spiral in an ascending and descending manner to generate a flow of energy up the spine, intending healing energy by balancing the chakras. I'm going to read that again because that's really good. I wish he was here to put that up. Oh, can you do it? There are 6 ancient tones that create a sacral spiral. Just stop with that. Now, we believe that it is the solfeggio 6 frequencies. That when you use that on the body, it creates a spiral of ascending and descending energy. Descending energy to generate a flow of energy up the spine. Now, the Eastern people call this Kundalini energy. Intending healing and energy by balancing the chakras. The spiral, I want you to get this, the spiral encodes itself, thank you, encodes itself as a matrix. I want you to get this. The spiral encodes itself as a matrix upon the cellular structure. Now let's look at the word matrix. I found the word matrix to be used 5 times in the Bible. Who knew? But it's in there. I looked it up in the Hebrew, and it reads in the Hebrew scripture, a womb or portal. So when you use these 6 ascending frequencies and create a spiral, the spiral encodes itself as a womb or a portal at the cellular level, particularly on the DNA, creating evolutionary step into our genetic encoding. Now listen to this. Seems to nullify any frequencies that are counterproductive to our highest good. Counter effects of harmful energy that gives rise to bacteria and viral diseases. It also likely nullifies and disharmonizes energies that may be trying to establish themselves upon our physical, mental, emotional, our spiritual essences. In other words, what we call stress and dis-ease. Is that powerful or what? You get that? I'm just going to review it real quickly. The 6 ancient tones, however you use them, creates a sacred spiral that ascends and descends up the spine. That's why in some energetics we teach going up the spine, turn them over, and go down the front. We're following the ascending and descending spiral that we're creating with these 6 frequencies. This generates a flow of energy up the spine, intending healing energy. How? By balancing the chakras. And that's the next thing we learn. How to use the forks to balance the chakras. Now, the spiral encodes itself as a matrix, a womb, a portal, upon the cellular structure, particularly on the DNA. Now, what it means particularly on the DNA, it means literally on the DNA. Not just the DNA itself, but what's on the DNA. And the word for what's on the DNA is the Greek word epi, which means upon something. Epi. Epi, how many know the word for knowledge is what? Gnosis. You've heard the Gnostics? These are people of knowledge. But there was an epignosis. There was a knowledge, a spiritual knowledge beyond the knowledge, on top of it. So we have a DNA up on the physical DNA called epigenetics. So creating an evolutionary step in our genetic encoding seems to nullify any frequencies that are counterproductive to our highest good. This is when it becomes easier, much easier, for you to walk in the love of the nature that you have been given by Creator. You should not have to work at it. How many years have some of us been working out to be loving human beings? And how many times have we failed and was knocked out consciously from being that and reacted? Not from love. It's not been the state of our being. We tried to mentally make ourselves be something that we learned a new thought or metaphysics that was not in line with our true divine nature. When you're aligned to the love you are, you can become the love that you are. That's why we start out with I am love. Because I am love is something that hasn't become love. It is a state of our being ready to become. And that's why you're here. You are here to become, or for God to become in us. The counter effects of harmful energy that gives rise to bacteria and viral encoding seems to nullify and disharmonize energies that may be establishing themselves upon the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual essences. What is the primary characteristics of fifth dimension? Unity consciousness that we call Christ consciousness. Christ, when we speak of Christ, we're speaking of 5D. People who identify themselves as a part of the Christ field, collective field, have tapped into 5D, while in 3D. But again, Christ consciousness is not the norm of 3D. Again, we got to work at it. And the ego wants us to work at these things mentally. It wants us to become a mental construct. That doesn't bother it, because you say, I mentally believe it. Just as long as you don't become it. It'll let you believe all you want to. And that's the thing about kind of new thought and metaphysics that bothers me, is there's a lot of mental constructs. Some good ones, and they're good ones. Positive thinking. All these, what we learn, principles in unity and science of mind, and all these are wonderful principles. I'm not saying they're not, but I've never seen a lot of it becoming the true nature of the people. And that's why we at HeartLight are trying to be that step of where what we know we are and who we are is now becoming in the world. And at that point, when you become, you will have raised out of third dimension into fifth dimension. Creativity, unconditional love, and freedom from judgment are just a few of the things that I have on this list that also I've shared with you from Jackie's book. Many people call fifth dimension the new earth. That became part of the collective consciousness a few years ago. And I think there was a reason for the timing of that. I think it seeded millions of people to the idea that we are going to enter into a new heaven and a new earth. So let's go to the fourth dimension. What is the fourth dimension, and where does it lie? It lies right between the numbers 3 and 5.
It's time.
It is time. Yes, it is time. 3 dimensions, as far as looking at it from the physics of things, is length, width, and breadth. That's space. The fourth dimension is time. And it's not like the timing on a clock. It is the timing of a cycle, a season. To everything there's a season. And we're at a season in which it is time to open these portals. So it is actually what we could say called the bridge between 3 and 5D. It has a lot to do with our emotions and feelings. Higher dimensional messages transmitted through light enter into 4D. So 5D is going through 4D to get to us in 3D. Now, this is important you understand. Anything that comes from the heavenly upper states is not to settle with us in 3D, but it is to pull us out of 3D into the state in which it has been sourced. And that's why I think the teacher Yeshua said, with his feet on the ground in 3D, I am in, the Son of Man is in heaven. So he's a great example of a human being in 3D living at a 5D Christ consciousness. Okay? So higher dimensional messages transmitted through the light inner 4D, and it's in 4D which divides them into opposing poles called yin and yang, that at that point is for the purpose of working together in harmony. In harmony.
Male and female.
Same thing. However, when we align with one pole or the other, this is where we got in trouble. This is where we are right now in the kind of political, cultural issue that we are dealing with, is because we have lined up with one pole or the other. So when we align with one pole or another, we throw creation out of balance by creating separation. To me, there's a difference in duality and separation. Just as these plugs need a male and female to give us this electricity, they're not opposing each other, but they're working together and synergetically bringing us the light that we're enjoying in this room. Okay? So what is our assignment in 4D? Mastering emotional energy becomes one of the greatest challenges to become a 5D human. How many of you want to be a beautiful, loving human being?
There she is. That's how you spell her name. Go back.
Okay. Yeah, how many of you here would love to be an unconditional, loving human with no judgment? How many of you like to feel the oneness you have with people who don't look like you or believe like you or act like you, but you feel that unity and oneness with them, that brother-sisterhood with them? Let me see that in your hands. Then you want to be a 5D human. That's what you're saying. I want to be a 5D human, and I want to get there. A lot of you have left your Egypt, so to speak, when you left a lot of your orthodox early teachings of a religion. If you were a part of religion, you made it out. You know people, it's not made it out yet. And there's a lot of people know they need to get out, but they're not getting out. Trust me, I believe there is a whole order of humans out there that are sitting in these dead religions that are man-made doctrines that are sitting there going, there's got to be more than this. But because of family, because of culture, because of fear, they just can't make it out. You did. Or you wouldn't be listening to me and you wouldn't be here if you had not made it out of your Egypt. Because religion will enslave you to some point if you're not careful. They want your soul.
I'm so lucky I didn't have that.
They want your soul, they want your mind, they want your life, and they want your money. So mastering this emotional energy, it becomes a real challenge to us right now so that we can qualify to become a fifth dimension human. One of the biggest challenges is the current political climate. So I'm going to touch into it without, I hope, not connecting with it. I am not angry at one side or the other. I'm angry that we as a collective has chosen to do this the hard way.
Amen.
Barbara Hand Clow says, and I want to quote her, "The global elite do not care which polarity people attach to. We give them the power to control us simply by attaching to one pole or the other." And there's the clash between liberal, conservative, Democrat, Republican, etc., etc. And this is to both of us. This is to both sides of this that I'm talking. I know we think we're right because we're in this pole. And they're all wrong and we're all right. Trust me, there's right and wrong on both sides of this thing. So, the answer is integration and balance. That's what we must learn in 4D, how to integrate and bring a balance between the extremity of the poles. When we feel drawn toward one polarity, if instead we become conscious and integrate with the opposite, we diffuse the negative energy from 4D and allow our consciousness to rise. Is that on there? Yeah. I'm going to say it again. When we feel drawn toward one polarity, but rather instead, if we become conscious and integrate with the opposite, we diffuse the negative energy from 4D and allow our consciousness to rise. This helps the collective, and if enough of us are going through the process of integration, we can reduce the suffering of 3D. So what is that saying? It says that, and I'll use myself, I certainly have some clear beliefs in the direction that I go as far as thinking even politically. But you see, if I start saying exclusively that everyone who believes like I do is the right people, and everybody who don't is all the wrong people, I'm feeding the poles. I'm feeding the poles. And here's the thing. Here's the challenge. The challenge is maybe I should listen more to people on the opposing side of things and see and try to find where is there some kind of connection and agreement that I could connect to, instead of being stubborn and saying, you're all wrong and I'm all right. But somehow we find that balance. I'm guilty of watching, when I do watch news, I don't watch it near like I used to, but when I do, I tend to find the stations that agree with me the most. That's not healthy. I've hardly listened to something like Fox News or something like that, but I should. I should. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're secure in what you believe, why are you going to be upset about what somebody else believes? The only reason we react that way is because we're not so sure at some level of what we believe is completely right.
See, politicians used to work together and they would find the balance.
Right.
But they don't anymore.
And that was the genius of a two-party system here in America. And we saw that happening for a long time until pretty recently that we saw these. And what happened is fourth dimension emotion, the energy of it, brought up a lot of emotion surrounded behind beliefs in politics and religion, sexuality. All these kind of things are just charged right now. Even stuff that we thought we had worked out, like the LGBT community. All of a sudden now they're back being in danger again and being attacked and killed and all of that. And here we thought we took care of it when we, had same-sex marriage was done. People thought that passing the voters' rights for all people, African Americans to vote and all of that, and then the civil rights movement, that would take care of that. It has not taken care of that because we have never taken care with the emotional patterns that is back behind that. We have to learn to change the patterns. So we are in the midst of a 4D experience. So let's talk a little bit about the symptoms of our collective transformation. I've said you really need to learn to be energetically diagnosed. Now, again, I'm not against all medical, although I'm very confused by it right now, to be honest with you. And I'm trying several different kind of doctors right now, to be honest with you. And I'm not getting what I'm looking for with any of them, to be honest with you. Even those who are more holistic and integrative that I go to, as well as those that are regular MDs and whatever. I'm not finding what I'm looking for because they don't fully diagnose what's going on with me. They give me a medical school diagnosis.
Page 32 of your PDR.
Yes. So we need to understand that there's some things going on that we need to either diagnose energetically ourselves or go to a practitioner that is able to diagnose you energetically. So I've got several here, but I'm not going to go through all of them, but a few. First is body aches and pains, especially in the neck, shoulders, and back. This is the result of intense changes at our DNA level as the Christ seed awakens within us. So as this authenticity awakens in us, it begins to rearrange and repattern everything else that has been a major pattern in our life. Feeling a deep inner sadness for no apparent reason. Now, some of you is going to be hard on yourself about that because you've been taught we should not feel that way because we're positive people. And I think it's the worst thing you can do is fool yourself that it's not there because you have mentally decided that you do not in any way connect with it. I think we all need to realize it's a spiritual thing to feel this sadness for no apparent reason. Now, let me read why. You are releasing your past, this lifetime and others, and this causes the feeling of sadness. This is similar to the experience of moving from one house that you've lived in for many, many years into a new house. As much as you want to move into the new house, there's a sadness of leaving behind the memories, energy, and experiences of the old house. Isn't that true? How many of us experienced that? We knew, excited about where we were going into this new adventure, but it wasn't familiar to us. It was unknown to us. And all we had was the memories of what had been in some way. Sudden changes in jobs and careers. Here's a big one. Withdrawal from family relationships. This is a tough one for a lot of people who are very tribal thinking people. You are connected to your biological family by old karma. Wow. Yeah. I had that experience with my mother, and I've told you that I was having a hard time when she moved in for 10 years with us. I fizzled out about 6 months to a year. And I had to be more than the son. It was his duty to take care of the mother. It wasn't working. But when I had this experience that we were souls who had been together and had this contract in this lifetime, I began to draw from a much deeper, stronger well of strength and wisdom into that experience. So a lot of your families you've been with before, and they're your family to work out issues. And I'm sorry, people are not working out their issues with families. We're giving in most of the time because we have that tendency in 3D to give our power away. Okay, that's touchy. I know, especially you mother bears. There's nothing stronger than mothers and their children and whatever. But you need to realize those children have been other things to you in other lives. And that's why you have different relationships, you that have more than one child. Every child represents a different experience of another lifetime that is incarnated into your life now to work out something. So it's not about just being mom and being dad and being kids and going through the 3D definition of what it's right to be a good mom and to be a good dad. It's what is the work to be done with these souls that have shown up in this close vicinity of my life to become what we call tribal or family. Listen to your children and grandchildren. Try to listen to your grandchildren right now. You know, I've got one 14 years old. Some of you have some younger grandkids and whatever. Listen to them because before they get too far into 3D, they still hold a lot more memory of where they've come from, and therefore they can really tell you and show you a lot if you'll listen to them and realize that they have been other things to you other than your grandchildren. You got to realize your family is basically who they are because of bodies, and you know, you're a mother and a dad by bodies. But you're brothers and sisters by soul. Anyway, so many. Unusual sleep patterns. Amen to that. What a challenge in my life. If you're awakening between 2 and 4 a.m., how many? 3 o'clock today. 3:30.
3:30, pain. 4:30 actually.
Well, God uses pain to wake us up. Hallelujah. Maybe there's a message there, Bonnie, about the mouth.
Do less.
There's a lot of work going on with you, and it often causes you to wake for a breather. Your soul and spirit is working so hard in sleep, period, that it's so intense right now that you have to wake up yourself for a breather. Not to worry. If you can't go back to sleep, get up and do something. That's what I did today. I just thought, I'm not taking something. I am going to just get up. I'm not going to just lay here. So I just got up and kind of paid for it today a little bit. Intense dreams, physical disorientation, increased self-talk, feelings of loneliness when in the company of others, loss of passion, and deep longing to go home. E.T. go home. And I think for many of us that home is the keepers of 5D, which is Pleiades. The Pleiades star constellation are the keepers of 5D, as human beings are the keepers of 3D. And we humans have not done well in 5D as keepers. Now, this is important what I'm getting ready to say. A lot of it is because of our anthropomorphic God outside of ourselves that we thought was going to do it for us. When the true God in us said, I give you dominion, I ask you to take care and seed the earth, name the animals. You are my administrators in 3D. And you know what that word is in the Bible? Gods. Gods. Look it up, and it means representation of source. And when the Creator did that, it gave us totally free will in 3D on the planet to do what we would do. And what we have done is miscreate a lot of things that has come to bite us. But you know, here's the beautiful thing about the grace of God. I'm going to say the grace of God. That sounds powerful. The grace of God is that even though you screwed up and did not align with the purpose for which you were given the third dimension earth and have gone out and miscreated a lot of things, the grace of God is, I will send the Holy Spirit to use that for the higher good. Does that make sense to you? In other words, nothing shall be lost, but even your screw-ups can be used for spiritual purposes of your awakenment. There's a scripture. I know you guys don't get some of these scriptures, but they're so deep to me. For your sin shall find you out. Think about that. What finds you out? Your sin. Finds out who you really are. Through your sins, you find out who you really are. And what is sin? Now, somebody should know this. No, Tim, not you. Means hamartia in the Greek, which is missing the mark. And then we learned that mark comes from the Greek word in English for character. When you miss being your true character or nature, you've missed your mark. When you're being other than what you were created to be, you're in a sin consciousness. But that's all right, because the grace of God said, I'll take your sin and I'll use it as a tool to find you out. So see, nothing is lost in the world of this idea of good and evil and whatever. Everything has a spiritual component to it for the purpose and the higher reason of growth and awakenment. So everything in your life. And then you can say, I know all things work together for good. Say that with me. I know all things work together for good. You can't say that if you've got evil over here and you got good over here. No. It all has to come together. The symptoms of our transformation. And I think we have a hand. Did you bring handouts for this, Tim? I don't know. At the talk, that's all right. Comparing 3D to 5D. Three-dimension norms. In 3D, it is me, my stuff. In 5D, it is always collective. There is no separate me. The I is collective. My group. Now watch your language, because it's easy for you to say, HeartLight is my church, my community. See, watch your language, because you're using third dimension language. You want to use more planetary language. Third dimension is always the ego of separation and me, me, me. Me is not you. 3D is systems break down. 5D is new systems break through. Crises in 3D become the transformations to 5D. Grace, room between cause and effect, is no buffer, but living mindfully. Judgment in 3D becomes acceptance and live in harmony. 3D is more living linear, time and space. Vertical is living in the present moment of the now. 3D is brain-driven, 5D is heart-driven. Caught in 3D limitations, access to parallel universes in 5D 6 through 11. 3D is pain body, shadow work to free up energy. 5D is for the light worker who works with photon energy, fifth dimensional light data or information. Third D is the separation of energy into body, mind, and spirit. 5D is everything is energy. 3D is Christ in me. 5D is Christ as me. 3D is the memory based on what is familiar. 5D is new, uncharted territory to experience. So, it's up to you. It's up to me. And this is why I will end the talk Saturday to address them. If you feel a resonance with this information and to this talk, it's likely you've decided either consciously or unconsciously to shift with the earth into fifth dimension in this lifetime. If so, you have the choice to simply allow life to transform you, sometimes in uncomfortable ways. If you have any resistance to change, life will do the job for you if we'll let it. Life's trying to do it right now. And there's things we don't like because it doesn't feel good, and it's meeting us with resistance to it. I'm speaking to myself too. There's things I just want to resist. I want to ask this question, not now. Oh, not now, God. Not now. No, I don't want to do that now. I don't want to go through that now. But there's no right way to make this journey. We each have to do it the way that is best for us. One way or another, we will make it into the new reality that lies before us. What an exciting time to be alive. And that is how we have to look at what's going on and look beyond the veil of 3D, because it's very depressing and very discouraging to look at it as it appears to be. It is our place to step up and have the vision of 5D while 3D is breaking down all around us. I have a few minutes. This is something that's not a part of this, but I want to share it with you. Events are being accelerated and emotions are being magnified almost 100-fold. Effects of time and space, and the fabric is undergoing a colossal twister motion, causing a warp, which is the actual mechanism of creating a new physical quantum experience. I think that is so powerful, that we are hearing it from so many different directions, that this is a time in which is a very emotionally charged time. What an opportunity for us. Okay, I'm going to open up the last 2 minutes or so for comments, questions, or whatever you'd like to talk about or contribute to the talk today. I'd like for you to do that if you would.
I thought it was excellent the way Jan put everything together. It was fabulous.
Very, very good.
Really enjoyed it.
Well, I'm glad to be back.
Good to see you.
Hey, Seven, maybe.
Hey, how's it going?
Always good to see you.
Likewise. So yeah, great information. Some of the stuff actually hit home with me as it always does. So.
How many children do you have?
Between my wife and I, we have 8.
Okay, so if you could leave it here seeing that all 8 children represent an aspect of a relationship in a past life that is shown up in this life. That's what it said. That's why it said, "Our child shall lead them." And you must become as a child to enter into the kingdom of heaven. So, I mean, Jesus was really into this. Don't give up your childlikeness. Not childishness, but your childlikeness. Because the child in you, as well as the children that have shown up through your DNA, have all come in for a purpose and a lesson to learn. But, oh my God, you don't know what I'm going through with my child. And what is it saying to you? What can you do to adjust and repattern? What can that teach you? What can they teach you? Why are they pushing the certain buttons that they're pushing? What are they reminding you of that you need to heal in yourself, instead of thinking, well, I could be much happier if I could change them? Somebody else. Dorothy.
Children and knowing how they fit into our past lives. With me, because I do past lives readings, I found out my daughter and I have always been like oil and water when she was growing up. And it wasn't until she was an adult that I found out that she was my mother in a previous life. Mm-hmm. So just finding out that information, you can go deeper into knowing them and knowing yourself.
Absolutely, and I think that's a good thing to open up, is you that might need some help in understanding why you have the relationship you have with certain family members and children, and why it's that way. Because you can really have a child that you really are very good with, and things are really good, and you got that troubled one that you wonder where that came from. So all of these things are always opportunities for us to grow and to mature and to clear more karmic debt from us in that way. And I find it so interesting that this, with kids, is showing up here like this. She's telling me they got about 15 kids coming Sunday or so. This is big. I mean, we went from none kids to all these kids that are showing up. But I told her today, Dorothy, that I think what a wonderful opportunity to help these kids to transition into a different world than the world they lived in even 2.5 years ago or 3 years ago. They've got to readapt and adjust to it. And because they don't understand it, they're depressed and suicidal, and all kinds of things are going on. And of course, my grandson's going through that at 14. And what did they do? They took him somewhere and put him on a pill. No. What an opportunity for us to go deeper with these kids and help them to transform their souls to fit this new norm that we're living in at this time, because it's never going to be like it was before. So the best thing we can do is to make peace with the change that has come and is coming upon us.
It's a good opportunity for our center to be working with children. I mean, even if one shows up, it would help us in our growth.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I appreciate you that are stepping up to be a part of it. And they're going to learn meditation and all kinds of wonderful things. I mean, Dorothy has really got a wonderful program put together that I was very impressed with what I've seen so far. So we're excited about this change that is happening here at HeartLight.
It's going to make us explode.
Well, I've always knew it was. I've wondered at times, I'll be honest with you, I wondered like, okay, is this it? But I knew something was...
We had a pandemic too.
Yeah, well, even that served its purpose in a way to stop us, and reevaluate, and yeah, it's all good in the realm of spirit. All works together for good. Thank you. Anybody else, real quickly? I love hearing from you. It's really good. I don't know what's going on in you. So tell me else. Something you got from today. What'd you get? What stands out to you?
The Pleiades star.
Yeah, the Pleiades galaxy being the keepers of 5D. Yeah. And that's already started. They've already started transmitting information, and that's what the book by Barbara Hand Clow is. It was all mostly channeled from Palladian energies.
The 9 dimensions.
The Alchemy of Nine Dimensions, I think it's called, by Barbara Hand, Hand, Clow, Clow. And you can get that on Gaia too. Yeah, her book's a little more complicated than this one. This one by Judith Blackburn, which is here in North Carolina somewhere. I'd really like to connect with her in some. Yeah, yeah. So I think Debbie DeVere gave me this book and told me about her anyway, and I appreciate that so much because it's really a good one. And it's just called Activating Your 5D Frequency, a guidebook for the journey into higher dimensions. So it's the excellent book. The other one is pretty can be complicated at some level in that way.
Yeah, that 5D book was a lot of the inspiration for this talk and the talk you're doing at the expo.
Yes. Blackburn. Judith Corvin Blackburn.
Is that on, she on Gaia too?
Not that I know of. Who knows?
Not yet.
All right. Thank you if you're still with us out there. Thank you. We thank you for your continuous financial support to keep this class going. And please ask your heart what you would desire to give to help us. And you that are here, we'll prepare to take receive our offering today.